Hi, this is Professor Scott Norman, and we're doing a series of interviewing with PSU alumni from the Automotive Technology Center, and I happen to have Isaac Fitzjarrald, which is a 2017 graduate of PSU. He's my first attempt to do some interviewing here. I'm calling this program "Gorillas in the Midst of the Automotive Industry." And so I'm very excited to have Isaac with us. He was one of my top students at PSU, and so I'm always excited to talk to him to kind of see what's been going on with him. So I'm going to start off by Isaac. Can you maybe tell us your hometown, where you grew up, and maybe a little bit of history of maybe your automotive experience at the high school level before you came to PSU?
Yeah, so I was born and kind of raised in Great Bend, Kansas, so western Kansas. And when I was in middle school, we moved to Newton, Kansas, which is where I attended high school, Newton Senior High there. They did have an automotive program, but at the time, I was looking into mechanical engineering. I thought I was going to go into mechanical engineering once I graduated. But I'd always had interest in cars, and so I worked on anything with an engine that I could get my hands on. Mowers. My dad had an old mower that I liked to tinker on, and once I got to the age I could drive, I worked on my own vehicles that I purchased. They were generally old and worn out and leaked, but good candidates to learn how to wrench on. And I had some older Fords, and my dad has a '59 Buick that I worked on a lot and drove in high school. And
That's right, you're a Buick guy. I remember
yeah,
that.
I'm a Buick guy, wearing my
Yep.
Buick shirt.
Yep.
So, and old Buicks, and my dad's got a '71 Thunderbird that I worked on. And like I said, I always had a knack for the car and engine things, and that's what I enjoyed to do with my spare time. I worked. I remember gas prices were so high then that I literally worked so I could drive my car to work.
Yeah.
But I had a little bit of money left over to buy upgraded parts for it. So that's the extent of pretty much what I did in high school.
Okay. And so then when you came to PSU, which area did you study in the automotive area?
So, like I said, I when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to do mechanical engineering, and late in my senior year, when trying to figure out where I wanted to go for college, I had pretty much settled on WSU, Wichita State University, and their engineering program. But then a friend of mine in high school who did go through the high school automotive program, he let me know about Pitt State, which had an automotive program. So we went down there for one of the gorilla days, orientation days or something, toured the campus, toured the technology center, and got some more information on the automotive program. And I found out that it was a new program at the time. I don't even think it was approved yet.
Yeah, probably
But
not at that time.
I talked to Dr. Dell, and he said, we think it's going to be approved. So if you come here, you can potentially major in automotive mechanical design, which was a hybrid degree that combined the automotive technology and mechanical engineering. So that's what I ended up doing. I applied to Pitt and got accepted, and took the automotive mechanical design route. So I got to spend just about equal time in the automotive department and the mechanical engineering technology.
Yeah, that program has 21 hours of engineering courses. So out of all of our automotive options, it definitely is the harder one because you're
Yes, it
taking
was
physics and calculus and materials and thermodynamics and
thermodynamics.
statics
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yep.
So
All the pretty much all the same mechanical engineering courses that the mechanical engineer majors had to take.
yep.
So it was
Yeah, go
pretty
ahead.
close to a double major. Very, very time consuming, but it was rewarding.
Yeah,
A lot of hard work.
I tell new students that they need to make sure they have good math skills.
Right.
Obviously, take all the math you can in high school. You take
Yes.
physics in high school would be helpful, right?
Yep. Yep, definitely take all the college credit you can while you're in high school, because it'll just set you up for more success at college, and you can start in more of the advanced classes than taking prereqs, but it's also more affordable,
Yep. Okay.
which helps.
And so while you're at PSU with your studies, did you get any automotive experience? Did you do any summer internships or anything?
Yeah. So while I was at Pitt, I believe my sophomore year, I had the opportunity to be the um, lab assistant in the heavy diesel department at school. So there I helped set up labs for classes, and helped fix equipment when there were engines or things that were what does Mike always say, studentized, I think.
Yep.
um, and
Always fixing stuff. Yep.
yep, always fixing stuff, and kind of just doing the maintenance on the school equipment and stuff there in the diesel lab. And then I worked there my sophomore year, and I also was able to work at Kunchek Chat and Coal, a local trucking company there in Pittsburgh, Kansas. I was basically a lube maintenance tech there on over the road trucks, but I also assisted with minor engine repairs. We did some head rebuilds, some timing cover changes, and fuel pumps, and I did some transmission work, some differential work, but mostly tire, lubing the chassis, drivetrain, powertrain, and a lot of electrical work on those trucks, which are very important. When lights go out, that's a
Yep.
big ticket on the road.
Yep. Yep.
And also the air brake systems, doing repairs on air leaks
Okay.
and those sort of things.
Okay. Did you have any corporate
And
internships while you were
yep,
still?
yeah. So my junior year, I applied with several companies for a corporate internship. I ended up getting accepted with Advantage Resourcing, who works with Ford, to staff their technical assistance center in Dearborn, Michigan. So in January of, let's see, that would have been 2016, January of 16, yeah, I moved to Michigan for my 6-month internship with Ford. And I was a full-time student online at the time as well. So I spent the full 40 hours a week at work, and then 18 hours in the evenings finishing coursework so I could graduate on time. I didn't want to extend my time in school an extra semester. So, but that was really good experience. I worked on the driveline automatic manual transmission team there at Ford, and assisted technicians with diagnosis of issues they couldn't resolve, along with electrical
Excellent.
concerns.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's great experience to get that. Your diagnostic skills when you start out are down here. By the time you're done, diagnostic
yeah,
skills are way up here because you get to learn how to
yeah,
diagnose very
yeah.
well.
Yeah, at the time I hadn't taken Dr. Dell's automatic transmission course yet.
Oh wow.
So I wasn't very familiar with automatic transmissions, and so when I went to that internship, I was told I was going to be on the automatic transmission team, and I was terrified because that was, I mean, at the time it was just this magic box where engine power came in one end and different ratios came out the other end, and I didn't know really how they worked. I knew how manual transmissions worked, but those are easy. They're
Yeah.
mechanical gears that you can see, and the clutches and valve body were just confusing. But I'll tell you what, after 6 months of working there, um, I came back and took Dr. Dell's crash course, automatic trans course in the summer, and I set the curve in the class.
Oh,
So
I was gonna say it probably been very easy for you
it
because
was
you were all
very,
familiar.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was very easy. And I'm not an expert by any means, but getting the experience, and I think the best way to learn something is to just get out there and do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep, I
So
agree. Okay. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're doing now? What happened after graduation? Who'd you go work for? What are you doing?
so upon graduation in 17, I accepted an offer with GM, General Motors, which is who I wanted to work for.
Mhm.
Anyways, I always grew up a Buick guy, a GM guy, so that's where I wanted to work, and I was fortunate to get an offer from them. So I moved back to Michigan, and they sent me through their track program, which is for their college graduates. Um, excuse me. which is their technical rotation and career knowledge program. So at the time, it was a 3-year rotation. You spend 1 year in each role. You're rotated through 3 different roles, and then after the 3rd year, you're placed in a permanent position.
Okay.
And so during my first year with General Motors, I got to work at the General Motors Propulsion Center, which used to be called the Powertrain Center,
Okay.
Engineering Center in Pontiac, Michigan. I was a service parts engineer there for front-wheel drive transmissions. I helped develop kits, part kits, service kits. So if you need to rebuild this transmission and you need the bearings and some washers and a couple bolts, and you go to the a dealer and you look up the part number for that rebuild. That's kind of what I did. I helped organize the service part numbers into kits. Also, just keep track of part numbers when engineering would update a part. Maybe it was a faulty part, or they just came up with an improvement. I would kind of coordinate the part number chain. So when we'd run out of this part number, I would link the parts so that when that part number was out of stock, we would go to the next updated new part number. So I worked with engineering and in service on that, and developing bill of materials for the transmissions, and just making sure they're released in our databases for dealers. So that was my first rotation. I spent a year there in Pontiac. After that, they rotated me to Milford Proving Ground, which is where everybody wants to work, right?
Wow, that's
Because that's
exciting.
that's where the racetrack is, and you see a lot of pre-production cars there in camo and all the cool stuff. So I spent a year there writing electrical diagnostics for all of General Motors diesel engines, the Duramax, the V8, the 4 cylinders, the straight 6 that has just come out, and some of the older 4-cylinder gas engines.
So you were probably seeing some of those mid-engine Corvettes going around
Yep.
there before anyone else was able to
Yep.
see them, right?
Yep. Got
That's
to work
exciting.
on some of those because we write the service information and then we have to validate it to make sure it works, right? So we would bring a vehicle into the garage and create faults, which would set the codes, set the check engine light, and then we would follow along with the diagnostics we wrote in order to make sure it worked, right, and it fixes the vehicle.
Exciting, yes.
Yep, and so that was my second year at GM, and I'm currently in my 3rd year at General Motors, and I'm in my 3rd rotation as a virtual engineer. So I'm working in Milford, I worked on pre-production vehicles, but they were, I forget how many weeks out from production, but, not too far out from production. And now I work on vehicles that are 4 to 5 years out. There isn't even a physical vehicle yet. So I'm a virtual engineer. And we have service requirements for, servicing an air filter, for example, or getting trim panels off. It shouldn't be too difficult to service normal maintenance components. And so I've currently have the cabin HVAC, so all the HVAC components under the dash, in the console, rear HVAC, so nothing under hood concerning that, and all the interior, so the dash, the A-pillar trim, seats, carpet, insulation, all of that, and the electrical throughout the vehicle from bumper to bumper.
Wow, that's a lot of areas.
Yes, it is. And for all vehicles, those are my 3 commodities for all models and makes. And I just have a list of service criteria. So I go through and I'm looking at the virtual models of these vehicles that come from engineering. And I basically go through and just validate that we can service all these components, and the layering makes sense, because you don't want to have to rip the entire dash out to just replace the cabin air filter.
Hey, can you help out with the in air conditioning class? I always talked about the evaporator being the worst thing on the car to try to get out. Maybe you can use some influence and make all those GM products for the little door we could like open up in order to get some of those parts out versus pulling a whole entire dash and HVAC module out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I work with a guy who works on that, so I can let him know.
Okay, excellent.
So
Okay, well,
yeah.
boy, that sounds really exciting. So then
Yep.
after your third year of actual rotation, then what happens next for you?
So I just had that conversation with my manager, and they kind of left it up to me to apply for positions I wanted that came available, or they said, you know, if a position opens in one of the departments you've previously worked in, you could request to go back there. And my manager at Proving Ground in Milford, excuse me, he liked my work there and wants me to come back. So come July, that's where I'll be headed as my final destination for the foreseeable future. So I'll be
Wow,
back in Milford.
congratulations. That is exciting. Wow,
Yeah,
I,
it
I
is.
am
Yep.
jealous. So man, that's a very exciting job. So
Yes, it is.
okay, well then, so to kind of round out this interview, could you maybe give some advice to a younger you, maybe a high school student who's thinking about automotive technology, who wants to go through college and maybe try to get a job as cool as yours working for GM? Do you have some advice for them?
Yeah, so I got a couple things. If I could go back and talk to myself while I was in high school, one of the first things I would mention is if you're looking for a corporate job with like General Motors or Ford or Chrysler or even Toyota, um, you have to understand that not all, but the majority of those corporate level jobs are going to be in Michigan or Texas, not Kansas, right? There are field positions available, but those are generally pretty competitive. If that's really what you want, you can work towards that and get it, but you'll have to probably spend some time in one of these other states. And so that's just something to keep in mind. If you want to pursue this career, you need to be willing to relocate at least for a few years or so to get the experience, to get the job you want, where you want. Another thing would just be to work and get yourself into anything automotive, anything gas, diesel engine that you can. Like I said, I worked a lot on my own stuff, and a lot of companies are uh, love to have students come in and job shadow. And I did one of those with an engineering company while I was in high school because, like I said, I thought I wanted to go into mechanical engineering. But there's a lot of places you could do that around. Maybe not so much automotive in Kansas, but if students are from other areas of the country that are closer to those companies and those jobs, job shadow there. And while you're in high school, if you can start working at a dealership or a Jiffy Lube or anything in the automotive industry, parts stores, any of that, that's a good place to get started. And I do know the OEM manufacturers, they really like to see dealer experience, especially if you worked for a dealer for the company that you want to work for, like working at a GM dealer. In order to get into GM, that's highly sought after. It's not a requirement, but it does help.
Helps get your foot a little bit further into that door. It gives you a
Right.
head up on the competition, that's for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Well, Isaac, I wanted to thank you very much for your time. I'm very excited for you. And good luck with your new position coming up in July for you.
All right. I appreciate it.
Okay. Have a good day. Good night.
Thanks.